Welcome to documentation in the Crossroads system for breastfeeding peer counselors. Please use the play bar controls at the bottom of the screen to rewind, play, back, and forward throughout the presentation as needed. Closed caption is also available by hitting the CC button. Recognize how to access the breastfeeding peer counselor screen. Distinguish between type and location of contact. Differentiate between breastfeeding peer counselor contact comments and instructions. Interpret breastfeeding peer counselor policy for a required number of contacts for a pregnant and postpartum participant. Breastfeeding peer counselor core responsibilities. North Carolina recognizes the important role of the breastfeeding peer counselor. Breastfeeding peer counselor responsibilities consist of establish relationships and maintain regular contact, provide support and information, issue breastfeeding supplies, and complete required documentation. Breastfeeding promotion and support is one of the core functions of the WIC program. North Carolina WIC encourages breastfeeding as the preferred method of feeding. Breastfeeding peer counselors provide information, encouragement, and support to new mothers. This peer-to-peer support is an essential component to assuring the success of the breastfeeding promotion and support program. Let's begin by reviewing how to search for the participant in Crossroads, which is the WIC computer system. This is the home screen in Crossroads. Home screens may look different for different WIC staff persons based on their user roles. This user role currently viewed is the breastfeeding peer counselor role only. You will note that during this presentation, red boxes are used to highlight sections of the Crossroads screen that are being discussed. Again, please use the play bar controls at the bottom of the screen to rewind, play, back, forward throughout the presentation as needed. On the home screen, there are two ways to navigate to search for a participant. On the blue menu bar at the top of the screen, hover over the Family Services text and a drop-down menu will appear. Click on the text Family Search. Another way to conduct a family search from the home screen is to click on the word Family Search in the Family Services grid box. The Family Search screen displays. There are three options for the range of search: statewide, local agency, and clinic. The system will default to the clinic option. It is best practice to conduct a statewide search for your participant to avoid duplicate individuals or duplicate enrollment. Under Search Criteria, select the radio button of Statewide under Search Location. Under Search Type, select the checkbox of Family and Participant. Family search type is the default. We are going to begin our search for our participant with the first name of mom and the last name of pregnant. In the last name data field, type the last name. Press the Tab key on your keyboard to advance to the next data field. In the first name data field, type the first name of the participant. Type the middle initial if there is one available to enter. Click the Search button. Let's check your knowledge. What is the recommended method to search for your participant using search location? Please select an answer, then click Submit. After the correct answer is chosen, please select the Forward button to continue. If an incorrect answer is chosen, please select the Clear button and try again. The search results may return several names. The search results details a wealth of information about the participant, such as family and participant ID, last and first name, middle initial, date of birth, category, status, certification end date, and agency. Selecting family and participant for the search type can result in a participant's name being listed twice. It will list the name for the parent guardian 1 and all family members. If the parent guardian is also a participant, her name will be listed twice. Click on any pencil icon of the family member to open up the record. The first screen that displays is the Family Demographics screen. The Quick Links menu on the left-hand side of the screen is used to navigate to various functions related to the certification process and remains displayed regardless of what screen you are on. The General Information section of the Family Demographics displays parent-guardian information, current address, telephone numbers, voter registration, language read, and language spoken. Language read and language spoken default to English. If Spanish is selected as language read, then this is the language that notices will be generated. Let's review some important information about the Family Demographics page. The Parent Guardian 1 grid box details information about the participant such as first name, middle initial, last name, and date of birth. Name changes and address changes are made on this screen. Let's review the steps to take when participant reports a change in name or address. The participant's first name, middle initial, last name, date of birth, gender, race, and ethnicity are all used to create a CNDS. What is a CNDS? CNDS stands for Common Name Database Services. Crossroads interfaces with the North Carolina Common Name Database Services. The CNDS provides individuals with a unique identifying number known as their participant ID in Crossroads. This number is used statewide by programs such as Medicaid, SNAP, or TANF. Name changes impact the linked participant ID with CNDS and should be managed according to procedures in the guidance document CNDS in Crossroads. If you have not been trained on these procedures, seek your manager's guidance on the proper steps to take when a participant reports a name change. When the participant is present in clinic and reports a change of name or address, the breastfeeding peer counselor must comply with the National Voter Registration Act of 1993. Reference to this policy can be found in the North Carolina WIC Program Manual, Chapter 6A. The requirement to offer voter registration does not apply when the breastfeeding peer counselor contact is made by phone. However, if a name and/or address change is identified during a phone call, the breastfeeding peer counselor should enter a family alert. Please seek manager for guidance on how to use the family alerts. This will alert other staff to update the information and offer voter registration the next time the participant is in clinic. Breastfeeding promotion and support is a required benefit of the WIC program. Breastfeeding peer counselor mother-to-mother support services are an enhancement to this core WIC requirement. The breastfeeding peer counselor will provide services to WIC women enrolled in the following situations: WIC participants enrolled in the breastfeeding peer counselor program, WIC participants who are interested in the breastfeeding peer counselor program, any WIC participant that has an occasional question. However, local agencies should not route all breastfeeding questions to the breastfeeding peer counselor, as it is expected that CPAs will address client questions. Breastfeeding Peer Counselor Program Letter of Agreement. Let's refer to the WIC Program Manual, Chapter 9. When asking a participant to enter into an agreement by signing this form, they are agreeing to allow the breastfeeding peer counselor to help them be successful with breastfeeding. Each participant that is enrolled in the breastfeeding peer counselor program will receive these benefits, and these benefits should be explained to each participant before signing the document. The breastfeeding peer counselor will contact you during your pregnancy in the early days of breastfeeding, follow up with you until you wean your baby, refer you to lactation experts or healthcare providers if needed, help you be successful with breastfeeding. This letter is available both in English and Spanish. After a breastfeeding peer counselor program letter of agreement has been signed, let's review how to scan a document. It is best practice for breastfeeding peer counselors to scan documents in the Eco-Social Assessment section of the Quick Links. Click on Eco-Social Assessment. At the bottom of the page, click on Scan Document button. The Scan Document window displays. It is best practice to correctly label each scanned document with a title and date. Here, the Breastfeeding Peer Counselor letter of agreement and date are entered. Please note, duplex scanning is in the off position. Only one page at a time may be scanned, and each page must be labeled. In the future, Crossroads may allow multiple page scanning. Once the title has been properly labeled, click on the Scan Pages button. After the Scan Document button is selected, the Reading from Device window opens. The Scan Document displays. Review the entire document has been scanned by using the scroll bar. Click the Save button to save the scanned document. After the scanned document has been saved, click the Save button again to save the page. If you navigate away from this page without saving, you will lose the document. Let's review how to view a scanned document to confirm Breastfeeding Peer Counselor enrollment. Breastfeeding Peer Counselors would view a scanned document to confirm it was saved or view at a later date to check status of enrollment into the program. We will continue to use the participant Mom Pregnant for this process. In the Quick Links menu, click on the text Scan Documents. The Scan Document screen lists all available scanned documents and will be displayed here. Click on the magnifying glass next to the document to view the information. Once the document displays, use the scroll bar to view the entire document. Click the Cancel button to exit out of the scanned document view. Breastfeeding Peer Counselor Prenatal Contacts. Let's review the WIC Program Manual, Chapter 9, for required prenatal contacts. Initial contact within 30 days of enrollment is a required contact. Contact monthly thereafter until 2 weeks prior to expected delivery date, and then weekly until delivery is a recommended contact. Local agencies may require additional contacts. Please refer to your local agency breastfeeding policy. Breastfeeding Peer Counselor Postpartum Contacts. Let's review the WIC Program Manual, Chapter 9, for the required breastfeeding postpartum contacts. Week 1 postpartum, 2 required contacts within the first week or 7 days after the date of birth. Week 2 postpartum, 1 required contact. Week 3 postpartum, 1 required contact. Week 4 postpartum, 1 required contact. Any additional contacts after 4 weeks are considered follow-up contacts. Determining date of contact. Our participant was unique in that she enrolled late in her pregnancy and was seen on the same day that she signed the letter of agreement. This counted as her initial prenatal visit, which occurred on January 7, 2016. This meets policy requirement for initial prenatal contact. Since our participant EDD is February 9, 2016, let's determine the next recommended contact frequency. This recommended contact is very useful to the Breastfeeding Peer Counselor in determining when the baby is born. Looking at a calendar, the contact could occur on January 26, 2016, which would be 2 weeks prior to delivery date. Due to this client's late enrollment into the program, it is not possible to provide a recommended monthly contact. However, it is possible to provide a weekly contact. This would occur between February 2nd through February 8th, 2016, because her EDD is February 9th, 2016. Let's look at a calendar to determine dates of contact. This is January and February calendars for 2016. First prenatal contact occurred on January 7th, which was the initial contact at the local agency, and the date the letter of agreement was signed. This meets policy requirement. If you are going to provide additional recommended contacts, the next recommended contact could occur on January 26, 2016, which would be 2 weeks prior to delivery date. This is very useful to the breastfeeding peer counselor in determining when the baby is born. As mentioned, due to the client's late enrollment into the program, it is not possible to provide a monthly contact. However, it is possible to provide a weekly contact. This would occur between February 2nd through February 8th, 2016, because her EDD is February 9th, 2016. The breastfeeding peer counselor must communicate routinely with women enrolled into the breastfeeding peer counselor program. Let's review the process of how to document contacts in the Crossroads system. The first documentation process that will be reviewed will be the participant mom pregnant that is enrolled in the breastfeeding peer counselor program, has been seen, and we are now ready to add the contact information into the Crossroads system. This will be the first prenatal contact documentation. It is important to click on the breastfeeding participant icon in the family header to access the breastfeeding peer counselor care plan. Navigate to Family Services, Care Plan, Breastfeeding Peer Counseling. The Breastfeeding Peer Counselor screen displays. At the top of the screen, the participant breastfeeding and birth information will display. Listed here is the participant's name, participant ID, and expected delivery date. We will begin with documenting the breastfeeding counselor contact information. Let's proceed with documenting the initial date of contact on January 7th, 2016, with the location of contact at the local agency and the type of contact as initial prenatal. Click on the calendar icon to open up the calendar month view. January 7th, 2016 is the initial prenatal contact occurrence. Click on the date of contact in the calendar. Next, document the location of contact. But before the location of contact is documented, let's review the definitions of location of contact that are available in the drop-down menu. Location of contact. Home visit, a visit at the participant's home. Hospital visit, a visit at the hospital. Private provider office, a visit at the participant's private provider. Local health agency, a visit at the local health agency and the most common visit. Worksite visit, a visit at the participant's place of employment. Telephone is a telephone call. It's time for a knowledge check. What location of contact would you choose if you observed a mother and her baby at the breast for feeding difficulties at the health department? Please choose an answer and select the Submit button. After the correct answer is chosen, please select the Forward button to continue. If an incorrect answer is chosen, please select the Clear button and try again. Click on the drop-down menu to select a location of contact. Click on the appropriate choice from the drop-down menu. Mom pregnant was seen at the local agency, and therefore local health agency will be chosen. Click on the drop-down menu to select a type of contact. Let's check your knowledge. Please check your understanding of the definitions of location of contacts by matching the columns. On the left-hand side, match the definitions of location to the correct contact type. Click on the drop-down field and highlight your answer. When you are done, select the Submit button. If an incorrect answer is chosen, please select the Clear button and try again. Types of contacts. Let's review the definitions of types of contacts that are available in the drop-down fields in Crossroads, and when to use the required contacts versus when to use follow-up and attempt. Initial prenatal, week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4 postpartum contacts are all required contacts and are used when required by policy. Follow-up contact is any other contact that is not required. Attempt, only used when attempting to reach the participant and the participant is unavailable by phone. Please remember that a follow-up contact is any other contact that is not required. If the contact was completed by phone, then you would choose the required contact type from the list and choose telephone as the location of contact. Please note, choose follow-up contact for all contacts that are not required and choose attempt when trying to complete a required contact. It's time for a knowledge check. If a pregnant woman has already received a contact within 30 days of enrollment and the breastfeeding peer counselor spoke with her on the telephone 2 weeks prior to her due date, what type and location of contact would you document? Please answer the following question and select Submit. If an incorrect answer is selected, please click Clear and try again. Select the appropriate choice from the drop-down menu, which is Initial Prenatal. To enter breastfeeding topics discussed, click on the arrow to open up the contents of the slider box.
Double-click a selection in the breastfeeding topics discussed to move it from the source list to the destination list. Continue to enter all topics discussed by double-clicking the item. Use the scroll bar to view more options. For this example, we chose breastfeeding experience, breastfeeding support system, and concerns about breastfeeding.
Use the arrow button to close the slider box. To view the list of educational materials provided, click on the arrow to open up the contents of the slider box. Double-click an appropriate item in the available materials selection. Participant was given a booklet on breastfeeding basics. Use the arrow button to close the slider box. Enter all contact information into the sticky note. Click on the sticky note to type Breastfeeding Counselor Contact Information Comments. Breastfeeding Peer Counselor comments are unique in their function in Crossroads. All Breastfeeding Peer Counselor comments are retained in the Breastfeeding Peer Counselor Care Plan. Please be aware that the Breastfeeding Peer Counselor sticky notes cannot be viewed under the General Notes section of the Quick Links. The Breastfeeding Counselor Contact Information Comment section is the area to record information about the visit or phone conversation. Type information here. Let's review the note that the Breastfeeding Peer Counselor typed for this first prenatal visit at the local agency. Client shared that she is doing well and is planning to breastfeed because she knows it is best for her and her infant. Client explained that her spouse is supportive of breastfeeding. Breastfeeding Peer Counselor shared with the client information about the Breastfeeding Peer Counselor program and the benefits of breastfeeding. Client reports that she has no concerns at this time. The Breastfeeding Peer Counselor gave the client information on how to reach the Breastfeeding Peer Counselor if any questions arise. The client is in agreement to be contacted by the Breastfeeding Peer Counselor during and after her pregnancy to provide breastfeeding support. After the note is typed, use the Minimize button or the Escape button on your keyboard to save and exit out of the comment box. After the note is typed, the letters AB indicate data in the sticky note. Information can be added at this time. Click on the sticky note to view the data and add additional information if needed. Once the Save button is clicked, the sticky note can no longer be edited, but an additional note can be added. Next, we need to add instructions regarding breastfeeding. Use the scroll bar to view information at the bottom of the page. Type instructions regarding breastfeeding concerns that will need further follow-up on next contact. Follow up in 1 month about breastfeeding concerns. Click on the Save button to save the screen. It's time for another knowledge check. Breastfeeding Peer Counselor Care Plan comments should be typed in the free form section of the sticky note field. What area of the Breastfeeding Peer Counselor Care Plan screen should contain information on instructions for follow-up? Please answer the following question and then select Submit. If an incorrect answer is chosen, please select the Clear button and try again.
Documentation for a telephone attempt. It was mentioned earlier that it is recommended to contact 2 weeks prior to estimated delivery date. Let's review this process. If you remember from the calendar reviewed earlier, for this participant, a contact was attempted on January 26th. A telephone attempt was made, but the participant was unavailable by phone. Let's review the process of documentation of a telephone attempt. Only one attempt will be shown, but the same process would occur if a second telephone contact was attempted. If this was a required contact, 2 attempts within the contact time frame to reach the participant by phone is equal to a contact. On the other hand, if a contact was completed by phone, you would choose the appropriate contact type and choose telephone as the location of contact.
Select the date of contact from the calendar month view, which is January 26, 2016. Select the location of contact by clicking on the drop-down menu to view the list. Select telephone as the location of contact. Select type of contact from the drop-down menu. This was a phone attempt. Select attempt. Since instructions regarding breastfeeding were not given, no information should be documented in this section. It is not necessary to add notes into the sticky notes for a phone attempt. If a second phone call attempt was made within the required contact time frame and documented, this would meet policy guidelines of 2 attempts is equal to 1 contact. This presentation does not demonstrate the second phone call attempt that meets policy requirements. Click the Save button to save your changes. Once the Save button has been selected, the start fields are cleared and information populates in the History section on this screen. If additional information needed to be added to this screen for the same date of occurrence, the starred fields would need to be re-entered to add additional information. A status message appears indicating peer counselor information was saved successfully. Use the scroll bar to view the history information at the bottom of the page. To view Breastfeeding Peer Counselor history records, click on the Expander button to expand the page. Use the scroll bar to view information at the bottom of the page. To view information displayed in the grid, click and highlight a row. A row that is highlighted is dated 1/26/2016 and turns a light blue color. On 1/26/2016, no instructions were given and are not displayed in the instructions section. Breastfeeding contact information comments display below. Select another row to view the details below. The note dated 1/7/16 is expanded and available for review. Topics discussed, provided materials, and instructions are listed above, and Breastfeeding Peer Counselor contact information comments are displayed in the comment section below. Select Cancel to exit out of the screen. Next, we'll review the process for documentation of the required postpartum contacts for a breastfeeding participant and an infant. Breastfeeding Peer Counselor Postpartum Contacts. Let's review again the WIC Program Manual, Chapter 9, for the required breastfeeding postpartum contacts. Week 1 postpartum, 2 required contacts within the first week or 7 days after the date of birth. Week 2 postpartum, 1 required contact. Week 3 postpartum, 1 required contact. Week 4 postpartum, 1 required contact. Any additional contacts after 4 weeks are considered follow-up contacts. For this review process, we will be using a participant who is postpartum and breastfeeding. She has delivered her baby, is being seen by the breastfeeding peer counselor. First, search for the participant by conducting a statewide search, selecting search type of family and participant. Enter the last name, first name, and middle initial, and click on the search button.
Once the search results list grid displays, click on the pencil icon of the family member to open up the family record. It is important to click on the breastfeeding participants icon in the family header to access the breastfeeding peer counselor care plan. Navigate to Family Services, Care Plan, Breastfeeding Peer Counseling. Click on Breastfeeding Peer Counseling. The participant breastfeeding and birth information displays. This includes mother information listed at the top and infant information underneath. Infant information includes name, birth weight, gestation weeks, date of birth, birth length, and breastfeeding frequency, among some other information. Let's look at calendars again to determine the dates contacts were made. This is February and March calendars for 2016. Our infant was born on February 23, 2016. Policy is to contact twice in the first week postpartum. If we view the calendar, the first 7 days after birth are February 24th to March 1st, highlighted in the gray area on the calendar. A first required postpartum contact in the first week was made on February 26th. The second required postpartum contact in the first week was made on March 1st. Both of these contacts meet policy requirements of 2 contacts in the first week or 7 days after the date of birth.
If contact is made on the date of birth, this meets policy requirements for first week postpartum.
Let's review the calendar again to determine the second week that a required contact should occur. The second week postpartum contact needs to occur between March 2nd through March 8th, which is highlighted in green on the calendar. A contact was made on March 8th, which meets policy requirements. The third week postpartum contact needs to occur between March 9th to March 15th, which is highlighted in blue on the calendar. A contact was made on March 11th, which meets policy requirements. The fourth week postpartum contact needs to occur between March 16th to March 22nd, which is highlighted in pastel orange on the calendar. A contact was made on March 17th, which meets policy requirements. This calendar represents policy requirements for all weeks post-delivery, in addition to a recommended contact. Let's recap policy requirements for contacts made post-delivery. First week postpartum contacts occurred on February 26th and March 1st, highlighted in gray. The second week postpartum contact occurred on March 8th, which is highlighted in green. The third week postpartum contact occurred on March 11th, which is highlighted in blue. The 4th week postpartum contact occurred on March 17th, which is highlighted and passed out orange.
A recommended contact was made 1 month post-delivery on March 31st, which is highlighted in red. It's time for another knowledge check. What type of contact would you document if you made a second call to a mom during the 2nd week post-delivery and you spoke with her about breastfeeding experience on the telephone? Please select an answer and submit. If an incorrect answer is selected, select Clear and try again.
Let's review required and recommended contact documentation in the Breastfeeding Peer Counselor history records. Use the scroll bar to see information at the bottom of the page.
Highlight each row to view the comment sections. On 1/7/2016, we had an initial prenatal contact at the local health agency. Additionally, the contact type, discussed topics, provided materials, and breastfeeding instructions are also displayed within the row. The comments displayed below is the information that was added to the Breastfeeding Counselor contact information comments, or also referred to as sticky notes. On 1/26/2016, we had a recommended telephone attempt. On 2/2/2016, we had another recommended follow-up contact by telephone. On 2/12/2016, we had another telephone attempt to see if participant delivered her baby.
On 2/26/2016, we had a required week 1 postpartum contact at the local health agency. On 3/1/2016, we had a second required week 1 postpartum contact by telephone. On 3/8/2016, we had a required second week postpartum contact at the local health agency. On 3/11/2016, we had a required week 3 postpartum contact at the local health agency. On 3/17/2016, we had a required week 4 postpartum contact by telephone.
Lastly, on 3/31/2016, we had a recommended follow-up contact by telephone. And select the Submit button. A baby is born on March 11th, 2016, and you saw the baby and mother on March 21st, 2016 for the first time. What type of contact would you document? If an incorrect answer is chosen, select the Clear button and try again. In summary, you should be able to recognize the Breastfeeding Peer Counselor screen, correctly select the type and location of contacts, document comments and instructions in the appropriate data fields, apply Breastfeeding Peer Counselor program policy for required number of contacts and recommended contacts for a pregnant and postpartum participant. On this slide, you see the complete USDA non-discrimination statement. This should be in use on each agency website where WIC is mentioned. Please refer to the WIC Program Manual, Chapter 4, Civil Rights for additional information. This ends the Breastfeeding Peer Counselor documentation. Thank you for the important work that you do for the participants of North Carolina. Enter full name here and hit Submit. On the next slide, you will be able to print your certificate.